how would you advise kind of a marketing manager to get the most out of a limited budget? I think on everyone's mind is trying to get more out of their exhibition.
You need to understand your objectives. You need to teach and train your people. The third thing is the creativity. The typical goal for the company who wants to be present on the exhibition floor is to collect new accounts, new leads. Secondary, it could be presentation or launch of the new software product, or it could be an image event.
What budget level do you think where you can really start to involve creativity?
If you ask me to be real about it, I would say
Welcome to Beire Behind the Scenes, where we discuss and uncover trends in the European exhibition market and talk to some of the most experienced players. I'm here today with Marina Albycheva, who's been with Beire for a little over 4 years. And she has over a decade of experience in the industry in a variety of geographies. And we're really lucky to have her here today to discuss a little bit about her career and a little bit about how she works with clients and kind of sees the European exhibition industry unfolding. So hi, Marina.
Hi, Corbin. It's great to be a host today. And I am happy to share some of the histories and stories from my experience.
Great. Okay. So let's dive in really quick and just give everyone a little bit of a quick rundown of your background.
Okay.
So you've been in the industry, I believe, since 2011.
Yes, that's correct.
And maybe let's talk a little bit about how you started, what that first catalyst was that really led you to the exhibition industry.
It wasn't the plan of my entire life at that time. I just graduated from the high school. And basically, the friend of mine, she invited me to the company, to the exhibit house.
And this is in Russia, where you're from?
Yes, it was back in Yekaterinburg in Russia. And I started my career as a project manager to support the huge and basically key exhibition in the region at that time. And my initial goal was to get closer to the people, to the industry players, because at that time, once you finish in the high school, you need to have some network connections. So it was my initial goal to work in the company, to try to know deeper business and maybe have a better network connection with someone else. However, I finished in this company as a project manager because I was really enjoyed the cooperation with the designers, with the technical people, even the boring paperwork, preparing the tender documentation that time wasn't so boring for me because I was really excited to know more about the exhibition industry.
Okay. And then, so from there, you have this good project management experience. You got to see a bunch of different companies, a bunch of different industries. And then you moved to Czech Republic and you started working with a company that did a similar project management work, but it was a little different. So tell me how it was a little different and it built on your experience.
Correct. That time after moving to Czech Republic and finishing my master in arts, I started to work with a company who was basically operating the production base and my accounts were an agencies. So my role was to mediate within the production and the agency. That gives me an opportunity to learn more from the experienced people because...
And tell me, when you say agency, just tell me a little bit about what you mean. When agency can cover a lot of things, what exactly were these agencies doing?
Those agencies was support the exhibitors, mostly from Russia, to have the exhibition presence in Europe.
And they're doing design?
They were doing design, they were doing the initial proposal to the customer. And my role was to connect their design concept with the real technologies we could apply on it, and to navigate them through the varieties of maybe materials or solutions we could offer them in their budget frames. So I wasn't in the direct contact mostly with the final customer, but with another account or project manager on the other side, and we had kind of the cooperation.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a terrific progression, right? You were doing execution, so you had a really good sense of what had to happen on the ground. Then you kind of move into this role where you're, going between an agency that's doing creative, also managing a client relationship, where you could kind of see that. You were also doing executions. And tell us a little bit about some of the like projects you did in that new role. So, as I understand, you had some pretty. I remember seeing your work when you were there at Gastech in Barcelona. I was very impressed with the Gazprom booth there. And then you were also working at Cannes Film Festival. Is that right?
That's correct. I was part of this big project. We built a Russian chalet on Cannes Film Festival for the several years. At Gastech, it was a really demanding customer and really complicated project. But
the result was perfect.
It's supposed to be perfect. It was in the initial brief with the customer. Yes. More than that, I was involved in some real estate exhibitions across the Europe. So my favorite one was Expo Real. And since 2015, I was visiting this show every year. And that's the reason why I miss the Oktoberfest every time. And I don't feel sorry about that. However, Expo Real connected with another huge industry exhibition, MIPIM, which also take place in Cannes as the film festival. Those was the most important industry which I did cover that time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you had this fantastic experience, but again, working in a role, not quite with clients, but more in an execution role, but still on some very high profile projects with some fantastic results. And then again, so your career kind of progressed, and when you came to Beire, then you took that extra step, and now you were the one managing clients and whatnot. And maybe just from that perspective, when you stepped into this new role, I mean, tell us a little bit about how you saw everything that you did and how you've kind of put that into a process to work with marketing managers for you. I mean, what do you think is sort of the best way to work with a marketing manager to really get a project design and really get a project going? What inputs do you need from them as well?
I would pray if the marketing managers, before they start working with us, would ask themselves this question. I would say that I think that I would appreciate their involvement in the brief creation part. Because, and I'm not talking just about some previous references, budget or expectations from the design team. I mean, having the brand book, that's perfect. Having their logo, that's amazing. I'm talking more about their understanding about the goals from the exhibition.
Exactly.
And this is something, unfortunately, you need to pull from the people from time to time, and you need to ask the right questions.
And what are some of these typical goals that you think have worked in your experience when a marketing manager has brought these goals to you, or that you've advised them to focus on? What are just some examples of these goals that you would like to hear from marketing managers?
Sure. And as you mentioned, normally you kind of mentoring or guide marketing managers, especially those who are not very experienced. But a typical goal for the company who wants to be present on the exhibition floor is to collect new accounts, new leads. Secondary, it could be presentation or launch of the new software product, or it could be for some of them an image event, so they need to be present there to meet the existing customers, existing partners, to kind of keep those already maintained relationship stronger.
Yeah.
Those are, I think, the core goals.
The core goals. And I think this is especially important these days as we see budgets being compressed. I would say
they are.
Yeah, they're being compressed, and especially with pressures from organizers and whatnot, we see the compression. So it's really important to focus resources. So you've seen, of course, huge budgets, you've seen smaller budgets, but maybe, I think on everyone's mind is trying to get more out of their exhibition. I mean, how would you advise kind of a marketing manager to get the most out of a limited budget? And maybe, do you have some examples about that as well, maybe?
Maybe I do have some examples to share, but to to answer this question, I would say there is 3 core ideas you need to meet. You need to understand your objectives from the show, specific what we are doing, why we are doing it.
And objectives would be to generate new leads, to really promote a product, to focus on a specific product group.
For example, or at least you need to create a new killer message, which you need to promote, because you cannot say, yes, we need to be present in the show. So you need to have a clear goals. And sometimes during the conversation with the marketing person, you're asking the questions, hey, if there is something changed for your company from the last exhibition, for example, maybe there is a new salesperson who cover different region, and they're like, oh yeah, we didn't realize that we need to maybe focus on that. So you need to have those clear goals. Second thing, you need to teach and train your people who is working on this booth, not just to pitch to the client, to be at the right time, to have the certain journey through the booth. That means that you ensure functionality of the stand is correct and it's aligned with the goals.
And the team knows how to, because ultimately the exhibition booth is an asset, and you have to train your people how to use that asset to generate returns. So I think that's an excellent way. And what's the third way?
The third thing is the creativity. Even with the limited budget, if you start prior to the time, you can think about on how to make it better. You did ask me about an example, and I think I have one. It was a Czech customer, Lanex, who did participate in ISPO outdoor exhibition.
I'm familiar,
few years before.
It's a good one,
This exhibition partly B2C. And the marketing lady did a fantastic job to prepare their campaign prior to the show. What we did, it was a very simple booth, less than 40 square meters. We built it from the existing storage elements mostly. However, we did create a fantastic art object. We call it art object. It was part of the wall, on which we used the ropes and carabines, which is basically the product of Lanex. And even before the exhibition started, they created a nice marketing campaign on Instagram and maybe Facebook to involve more visitors. And this is small interaction. This small interactive element helped them to grow, and they did compare the data from the previous ISPO outdoor show, and it was about 28+% of the visitors at the show. So you need to invest a little bit more of your time. And if you have a nice partner who could suggest you, who could invest the experience, creativity versus the experience with different other customers, it could work.
I think that's a fantastic case study that you laid out, and it does a couple things. One, you're using the client's product as like an art object. It's basically the focus of the stand. It's also the focus of the creativity. Not all of our clients have nice, colorful products that we can do, but that's where the creativity comes in. And then you create this, which at a pretty low cost. I mean, without getting into specifics, I think it was only 200 to 300 euros a square meter, maybe, somewhere in there. And then you also were involved, or they had this tertiary campaigns where they put it on social media and they use that as a focus. So you almost scale your investment in even that small object to get even more ROI on it. Right?
You're right. And if there is a chance for us as an experts in the industry to support different other omni-channels of their marketing campaign, that's perfect. unfortunately, not every time it is available. So many times even departments kind of separate from the rest of the marketing team.
That's
but
really
they
true.
are very nice examples. The marketing team is married with event managers and they have the clear goals, and you could use before the preparation other different sources.
I've worked with some of my clients who also have this issue where they have different marketing departments that focus on real events versus digital. And where you see the real results drive is where, like you said, where you can marry those two and really scale the investment in the exhibition. I've seen a lot of success with companies doing that. I think that's a great example. But that said, a lot of people are still thinking, well, okay, maybe the budget was low, but they had a colorful product. If we really get to brass tacks,
Okay.
what budget level do you think where you can really start to involve creativity? Or even do you even think about it in those terms? Do you think that there's a budget level where you can start to do really creative things? Or do you think, any budget is possible? Which I don't really agree. But how do you think about that a little bit? And let's be real about it.
If you ask me to be real about it, I would ask you, where is the exhibition?
Oh, very good point.
When is the exhibition?
Another good point.
Yes. It is depend on our capacity. So we know in fall, in the spring, we are overbooked with it's just the reality of the industry. So it would depend on the timing, it would depend on the destination. It's not connected just with the logistics, but also with the venue specifics, let's say. However, there is no limitation of budget for the creativity itself, but if we...
The execution,
yes, you're right. If we came to the execution, I think that we could start to be creative starting from 25k euros.
Okay.
If we are thinking about numbers, there are different examples from our customers whom we support at the variety of events. For instance, PMT, the Premium Mounting Solution Company, they have one big event annually, Intersolar. And then they have around 6 or 7 smaller shows across the globe, not only across the Europe now. And once we create some idea, some concept, then we are able to repeat this idea, reuse the same even element, and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
That's the case.
And you put 25,000 euros as the benchmark. I think if you really want to do something, have something striking, I agree. But with your case study, the budget was much lower.
It was half lower.
Yeah. So I think, but again, it depends on the venue. It also depends on the client's product.
That's true.
Because they were able to use their product to really make this. So, I think there is some variation, but I agree, especially at the level if you want to include AV in like special kinds of like lighting, ceiling elements, special displays, usually, especially for like a one-time investment, which then can be reused and scaled. But then I think your boundary is probably about right.
I think so.
Okay. Maybe just to wrap it up, if you would have one piece of advice for a new marketing manager, and we've seen after COVID, a lot of talent kind of came out of live events. It's kind of building back. But we have a lot of like new marketing managers in the industry. What's one piece of advice you would kind of give them, to kind of really get the best out of a company like Beire, a fully integrated company that has design? What's sort of one way they could approach it, with you?
You're right. It is very popular now that the people with the background from the digital marketing now starting being involved in the real events preparation. At this point, as advisors, we kind of mentoring them and trying to support them to succeed, not only as a part of the company, but personal success. I would say for someone who just starting marketing manager career, to think about the objectives and ask million of questions to the stakeholders, to the colleagues who did it before, to the salespeople who were working on the booth last time.
That's a really good point.
To try to find differences, try to ask the questions why we are doing it. If you don't know the answer, ask for this answer. If you don't understand what's the value of this show, you need to understand that. And the whole picture would support you to build a nice story, and we could push from this point.
Yeah.
We cannot miss this advice to start earlier.
Of course, you can always start earlier. That's
last minute changes and last minute preparation would cost you not just limitation in creativity, but also in resources. Sometimes it may be more expensive than if you did it prior.
I think that's a really important point, and I think that alone deserves another discussion on timeframes and how that affects project outcomes. But we'll save that for next time. Marina, thank you so much for the discussion. It was great to get to hear your perspectives and hear a little bit about your background, and I look forward to talking to you about this again soon.
Thank you, Corbin. It was my pleasure.